So sports culture in America, and indeed really around the world, has a reputation of being very unaccepting to gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender people. This is especially the case for youth sports. Well, two New York high school basketball coaches are trying to change that by organizing competitions for gay youth. Both men now say they are being punished for organizing a basketball fundraiser for gay youth. Now please meet Anthony Nicodemo. He's one of the coaches involved, and Zeke Thomas, who's a gay rights activist, but is actually not one of the coaches in question. So Anthony, to you, if you could explain exactly what happened and why you believe this is the case where you're being punished for organizing a gay event.
Well, essentially, we organized this game as the first high school LGBT fundraiser in the country. A lot of colleges have done it, but the high school's never really done it. So as an openly gay coach, I thought it would be great to organize and really push it locally and make it a pioneering event. Unfortunately, a couple weeks after the event, we were informed that the paperwork wasn't right on it by our sectional director, and in turn, the Section 1 Athletic Council voted to suspend.
The paperwork?
The paperwork. It was literally over a form that wasn't properly filed. Unfortunately, the optics of this are just very poor. You know, like you just said, the LGBT community with sports is not good. So for the section to make this decision over paperwork, it doesn't seem right to me.
Did anyone ever give you approval to actually hold this game, this tournament?
Yeah, in actuality, my athletic director reached out to the section and explained it to them, and they said, no problem, there doesn't need to be any paperwork, you're all set, there's nothing need to be done for this.
And this took place on school campuses or on a college?
It actually took place at Sarah Lawrence College. We ran it in partnership with Sarah Lawrence College in Yonkers.
So what makes you think that this is the case where they're targeting you or punishing you because this event was a gay fundraiser?
You know, I really keep thinking in my head, I hope that's not what it is, but the transparency has been really poor from the people in charge. The people in charge have created a false narrative of what the event was and what sponsorship was. You know, Zeke's one of the examples. The rumor was, well, he got paid by this and that, and there's just no truth to it.
Did you get paid?
I did not get paid.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. And that was the narrative, and the narrative was false. And instead of bringing the athletic directors in and saying, hey, listen, what actually happened here, the athletic directors weren't allowed to defend themselves. It was a narrative created by a few people that was presented to the athletic council, and that's what they voted on, which is completely false because a lot of the stuff that they're coming up with just didn't happen.
So it didn't happen. Have you brought your claims to them? Have you said, we believe that you're doing this because this was an event for gay youth?
We've questioned that. You know, myself, my athletic director, and other people have, the media at this point has questioned that. They've kind of been tight-lipped, and they're basically saying, well, we do support this, and we hope it's next year if they do the paperwork right. I've watched these same people pick and choose events. There are events that go on all over the section that involve the same type of situations where people sponsor T-shirts and stuff, and there's no paperwork for them. So I have to question, and I've said this multiple times, why is this the event that they chose to make an example of? It just doesn't seem right to me, and like I said, the optics of it are really bad when you're talking about LGBT youth who struggle on a daily basis. This should be something that educationally the section and the state should be embracing and trying to push more of these events to happen.
So I want to make sure I add that we reached out to the Center for Interscholastic Athletics, and the director did not respond to comments. But again, they're suggesting that their official position is that this is not a case that you're being targeted because the event was a gay fundraiser, but again, because of the paperwork. If we could turn to the significance of the event, how important do you think it is? What kind of message does it send to the kids themselves?
I mean, my team is a little bit different because they deal with me every day, and as an openly gay coach, they get to experience a lot more. You know, they're exposed to a lot more than most. But I think, like you said, just to have LGBT youth who might be closeted seeing this event and seeing really high-level basketball players come out and support the LGBT community, I think that speaks volumes alone. You know, I came out at 35 when I found the sports community within the LGBT movement. I was closeted before that. So the hope is that by a youth, you know, by a kid seeing this, oh my God, you know, these great athletes embrace me, and this makes me more comfortable. I could come out to my coach, I could come out to my teammates, and I think that's, you know, the main purpose here of it.
So the main purpose of the event was to show people that there are folks like you who also happen to be gay, that despite all the stereotypes, that there are athletes who do that. Now, I know you've had a lot of experience with this, and you were at this event.
I was at this event. I grew up in Section 1. I grew up in the Harrison High School District. Grew up a closeted man, and I've since come out, obviously. Grew up, you know, with a legend in the household in basketball, my father, Isaiah Thomas, and now Jason Collins, who was also at the event, attending the event, and just embracing that community. It's not really so much LGBT as much as it is also black and brown. The majority of the kids on your team are black and brown. We've seen this narrative before. We've seen that black and brown people don't embrace LGBT rights. That's a false narrative. We've seen that athletics doesn't embrace LGBT rights. That's a false narrative. It's really the people at the top, again, who are pushing this negative, hateful message down.
You received a tweet in support. I want to read that tweet from Gleason that said, we are left wondering whether homophobia may have played a role in the council's decision, and the organization condemns decisions to suspend coaches for supporting LGBTQ youth. You are suspended. So what does that mean on a day-to-day basis? Are you able to go to work, or are you not?
Yeah. I mean, it's basically for one game next year. So I'm allegedly, myself and Coach DeCinto would not be able to coach our first game next season, is the punishment that they came down with. And, I think the narrative that Zeke just said, and at the end of the day, like I said, this idea of indirect discrimination, obviously an educator who doesn't support LGBTQ can't come out and say that nowadays because they're going to lose their job in New York State for that. You can't do that. But what a way to get back at someone if you can, and you don't support this, you don't support the outspoken, you don't support the advocacy. Hey, I could vote this event down and no one's going to ever know the difference because a paperwork, the form wasn't filed. So there's a lot of narrative here.
Forms not being filed before. That's voting rights. That's right. That's very trained transparency in terms of racism, in terms of prejudice, in terms of taking people's rights away from them for free equality in this country.
So much of this event that you organize is about messaging. You didn't raise very much money, right? Barely $1,000. The fact that this controversy comes now, that you're being punished, what message does that send to the students who took part in this and to everyone else who's following this case?
First thing I said when this all came down was the optics. I said the optics of this are going to be really, really bad. I said, you have an entire can there, and there are going to be people who don't know the story, and they're just going to see the headline or see it, and they're going to go, whoa, what's going on here? They're not supportive of this. And I think that's wrong. And I think as leaders, you have the option to pick and choose how you want to handle things. There's different punishments, right? You can suspend, you can censure, you can write a letter. There's so many different things. To choose to do this and say, well, this is what we do when this happens, I don't file paperwork. That's not my job. I don't know anything about that. That's actually an administrator's job. So in another sense here, another part of the story is we're being suspended for something that we have nothing to do with. We don't handle sanctioning. That comes from administrators. So we have nothing to do with this. So we're now being suspended for something that has nothing to do with us on top of the message that's being thrown here. This is very convoluted, and like I said, there's no transparency.
So how do you explain this to the students themselves? What do you say to them, if you can answer briefly?
I mean, my kids are easy. I'd say to my kids, guys, this is a little bit of a witch hunt. You guys have been here before with me. You were part of this thing when I came out. You saw the hate mail. You've dealt with this before. You know how this goes. And we're going to keep fighting. And whether we win or lose is not the issue here. I tell my kids all the time, and I tell all kids, keep fighting. Zeke just kind of said it about different issues with minorities and whatnot. Keep fighting for what's right. You're not going to win every battle, but you're going to sleep much better knowing that you're going to go down swinging.
Sleep much better knowing that you're going to go down swinging. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being here on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks.